Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Jim Fagan. I'm the Director of Global Platforms for Telstra, which really is two core responsibilities. I'm responsible for our SDN platform, the Telstra Programmable Network, as well as all of our cloud products and offerings. And I want to thank you all for taking the time to be here today and be here all week. It's been quite a fascinating journey over the last 4 or 5 years as we've gone on this software journey together, all of us, to see all the growth, both in the number of attendees here, as well as the different technologies, innovation, and solutions. You know, you walk around outside and you go to a lot of the different booths, and if you really think about it, the innovation there is pretty incredible, and Ray touched on some of it. But what I want to do today is maybe take a step back and build a little bit on what Ray was speaking about, really around how do we actually take all that great technology and innovation and turn them into solutions that customers actually want. Because that's actually been one of my hangups lately, that I get a little bit annoyed when we actually, us as an industry, what we talk about it, and we actually use SD-WAN, SDN, VNFs, and we talk about them as they're the solution. They're not the solution, they're components, they're pieces of the puzzle on how we solve a customer need. And I noticed some of the talking tracks here have been around, how do you actually monetize software-defined networking, SD-WAN? And I think one of the difficulties that people are having on this journey is what they're just throwing out there is tool sets. And they're throwing out tool sets that customers don't really understand yet. They don't understand how to implement it, and they're not actually getting to the crux of an enterprise's problem. So I want to spend some time talking about, and then we've been on this journey with SDN for about 5 years now. Our platform has been in market for 5 years, and one of the most consistent and growing use cases that we've had from day one 5 years ago to today is enterprise customers going, how can I actually connect to my clouds? How do you help me with cloud connectivity? So that's what I want to talk about today, is how we take these technologies and how we actually bring value into that connected cloud world. So if you look at where the modern enterprise is today, you know, the big hot buzzword that everyone uses is digital transformation. And everyone speaks about digital transformation. What digital transformation really is, quite honestly, is just another way to say it's a customer's journey into a cloud environment. They're taking cloud-based tools, they're putting them together, they're trying to get their organization agile, they're trying to actually get faster to market. That's really what it's about. And there was this misnomer, I think, with cloud over the years about that, hey, all you had to do was go to AWS, get a Salesforce SaaS, and everything was going to work. And the reality is we've ended up in a lot more complex world than that, a lot more difficulty. And a lot of the same problems that we've had in traditional environments has actually come with the cloud. So whether that's security, compliance, how do you automate it? And the one thing I think got lost in all this transition to cloud was, the reality is cloud doesn't work without the network. The network is actually the heart of a connected cloud strategy. It's actually the heart of a digital transformation. And so how then can you actually, one, bridge the gap of connectivity for customers, but then also give them tools, give them access to environments where they can do their compliance, they can do their security, they can do automation. One of the other big requests we see from customers in cloud is going, hey, you know what? It's great, but I have no idea what I'm spending. I can't tell at all where I'm spending, how I'm spending. So how do we give them tools that cost automate, that ties into that network layer and that security? And how do you give that to them out of the box? And I think Ray hit on some really interesting points on that opening, is what customers with this don't want to do is they don't want to go through 14 different service panels. They don't want to have to chain and work this together. They want to have these tools out of the box, either in a nice seamless fashion that they can use, or they want a service provider to do that work for them. So really then, as you look at us as service providers, as technology partners in this environment, how do you create that? Because really, if you want to get to that type of solution where the network is driving your connectivity, the network needs to behave like a cloud. So let's think about what you need for a cloud. You need to basically have it be globally accessible. You need to have the idea of infinite availability and capacity. And you need to actually have the ability to also pay as you go, and tooling that helps you work, get that in. But if you look at all of us, it's actually a lot harder to provide those pieces of the puzzle from the network side versus the actual cloud side. If you think about how you grow out and you scale cloud, you know, you actually, you have the data center cost, but you know, you have a few extra racks that are there that you can spin up. You know, so maybe you're sitting on a few tens of thousands of CapEx there. If you want to go out and build a global network, if you want to go out and interconnect into every cloud provider, if you want to go create tools and peering, that gets really expensive quick. And I think there has been some cases in our industry, and I think you all know them, of people who have actually made the run at build it and they will come. And the reality is the cost load's too heavy for that and the pay you go. So how do you do that? And so Telstra, we kind of took a step back and we said, you know what, the only way we're going to do this is through partnerships. The only way we're going to do this is really understand what we do really well, what value we provide to our customers, whether it's in our services, our technology, our tooling, and our presence in region. So where do we actually have bandwidth? Where do we have connectivity? And then how do we actually go out and find partners who are like-minded, who have strengths, who have technology, who have innovation, who have customer bases that actually complement what we're doing? So we actually end up taking best of breed, putting that together, but then most importantly, creating a ubiquitous experience for that customer. And what I mean by that is when they're actually consuming these services, they're consuming them from either one or two providers. So depending on who actually has the relationship with the customer, but there's actually value in monetization for every partner in that service chain. So as we think about it, the approach we're taking is really, it's about, the other big buzzword is ecosystems. And the question is then, how do you create an ecosystem of ecosystems? I know that kind of sounds a bit kind of buzzy and but it really is that reality. How do you not have to recreate every connection, every cloud, every tool? So we've taken the approach of working with best-in-breed service providers, whether it's in cloud, whether it's data center providers like Equinix, or cloud tooling companies, and how we actually automate into them via API interfaces to actually get those tools, get those access points to our customers, and orchestrate and aggregate that through two of our tool sets, our Telstra Programmable Network, which is our software-defined network, and our cloud site platform, which both of those work integrated, and that allows customers to access that cloud tooling. So what we're doing through that is actually not an aggregation where we're trying to create a Telstra customer experiences. We're actually partnering with all these with all these technology partners, and what we're doing is we're actually displaying their native capabilities to the customer, but giving them one area where they can consume. So to kind of give you a bit more of an example and a little more depth, I'll talk about what we recently announced with our global partnership with Equinix. And really, this is almost, if you look at it, the 5-year journey of the Telstra Programmable Network. And so really, the Telstra Programmable Network is a layer 2 core-based. If some of you had the chance to see my colleague John Vestal speak about it, who's the architect for that, very much homegrown. We've developed our own controller, OpenKilda, which I know there were some workshops on. And really what that allows us to do is really do pure spin up, spin down layer 2 capacity. Allows us to create VNF farms. It allows us to service chain. And it allows us to interconnect in the customers. It originally started out as a data center to data center product, so data center interconnect, and then actually also then going into the cloud providers. But then we had to solve the issue of how do we actually get customers to come back in? How do they get into the network? How do we actually allow customers to run hybrid networks, just like they run hybrid clouds? So we expanded back into our IPVPN layer. And now customers, any customers on a Telstra IPVPN or can do an internet breakout, actually can get access in. And this is now where we actually bring in SD-WAN. So we actually put SD-WAN at the branches, at the headquarters to get some of those VNFs closer to the customer there, to get them that tooling, to get them that orchestration. But the interesting thing about SD-WAN is, while it is a great way to actually save cost, it's a great way to optimize your traffic. The real value of SD-WAN is what you can do from the application awareness. One of the problems with SD-WAN is you're still going over a traditional network. So the ability to truly burst bandwidth, to have that cloud ubiquity, isn't there. So what we're trying to do is combine these into a hybrid best of breed and actually pull them together so the customer can get that SD-WAN flexibility and capability at the edge, come back into the core, and then access that ecosystem of world-class providers. And with what we've done with Equinix, you see here, so out of our TPN, our programmable network, we do direct connections into ourselves, into Amazon and Azure, for instance. But as we looked at it, we were thinking, how are we going to actually go global? How are we going to connect to all the cloud providers that our enterprises are asking for us, both in Australia and around the world? And as we looked at that, that was quite a challenge. So Equinix has been a longtime partner of ours in the data center space. So we actually worked with them on their Equinix Cloud Exchange. And what we've done, which is one of the first ones to do, is we've actually done a full API integration. So basically what now, through the Telstra Programmable Network, a customer actually now has access to all those Equinix endpoints. But they get it seamlessly through the programmable network. So if they're coming in, if they're a Telstra customer all the way at that edge coming through, they use one tool to access, activate, monitor, spin up and spin down. And then you think about, okay, what's the benefit for Equinix? Well, Equinix now basically has every single Telstra IPVPN customer and internet customer around the world has access to their cloud exchange. So they end up getting the revenue. They have that priced in for when we have to go access that for that customer. That's built into the pricing. Now when customers are talking about a hybrid cloud and we're working with them and they're thinking about deploying to a third-party data center, it makes sense to go to Equinix. So it actually starts to show where we actually are bringing best of breed and pulling it together. So really what that's now allowed us to do is, and this is a screenshot of our global exchange and the programmable network, is customers now have access to over 60 cloud services from 8 different locations around the world that they can actually provide private connectivity within 5 minutes. So it's simple and it's automated. What you won't see in there, they also have choice. So for Amazon, for AWS, as I mentioned, we have our own direct connections into AWS, but obviously Equinix Cloud Exchange does as well. So if a customer's already in an Equinix data center, they can choose here just to access that through Equinix Cloud Exchange and get rid of that layer, or they can go direct in. So again, giving that customer choice. And what we're looking to do with this over the course of the next 6 months is work with Equinix to expand this globally. So we'll be in over 200 sites and actually all their clouds around the world. So now you're starting to get that single pane of glass ecosystem. And with that then, this is where I think the architecture piece comes in really interesting, and this is where I'm excited about a lot of the frameworks that are coming into place, whether it's from the Metro Ethernet Forum, from MEF, from ONAP, or for the TM Forum. Because to actually make this world work, that's where we have to drive to. So really where all these systems can actually talk to each other, not just north-south, but east-west. So this idea of getting out of these silo stacks and getting to a microservice architecture and being able to service chain these together and be able to actually then aggregate and display these back to the customer, which actually highlights a little bit of what Ray showed in his iPhone example. So again, and that's really, I think, where as all of us, as we go down our technology, we do have to make it open. We have to make the ability to interconnect, and that's why the work that's going on with some of these standards is so important. And now what you get to a customer now is you actually start to finally put the full piece together. They actually have that cloud-based connectivity, so they can actually get the private, secure connectivity on demand. They're actually able to automate the provisioning of their VMs and VNFs, whether that's on-site through SD-WAN capability, or whether that's in the core from a Telstra VNF farm or from another provider. So now they have that all there, and then they actually get a view of how's the network performing, where's it interconnecting, and what's going on with those clouds. How much are they spending? What are their compliance rules? How is their security? So now you're starting to get that ability for customers to really have tool sets that are allowing them to go on that digital transformation journey. And then the other piece on service chaining is when we get customers and say, hey, that's great that you guys actually help me do all this, but I don't actually want to access all the tools. I want simple solutions. So one of the ways that we've taken this microservice approach and we've used OpenKilda is to start to offer business-friendly solutions. And the first one that we just recently launched is gateway protection. And so really, what it actually is at its core underneath, and you can see some of it, we worked with Palo Alto, again, on partnering. And basically, it's a Palo Alto virtual firewall. It's a VNF in our fabric. And what it actually does for a customer is, instead of them having to go into a command line interface, it actually asks them simple business questions. What are you trying to do? Simple radial buttons. And when they answer all that, goes back in, it actually then configures that Palo Alto firewall based on those business requirements. So now you're getting into business friendly, and then it deploys that as you're in between your cloud connections within 30 minutes from 7 different VNF farms around the world. And then it gives you a customizable dashboard to understand what's going on with it. So again, it's taking these component pieces and building them up and putting them in a solution where they actually add value to a customer. And really then the goal with that is, how do you actually drive to that one ecosystem? So how do you actually get to that customer where they have their network, they have their ability to flex up on bandwidth, they have the ability to actually deploy virtual firewalls, and then run their applications, monitor their applications, be able to expand anywhere in the world. And if you go back to that digital transformation, that's what a customer wants. They want the ability to actually expand demand as they get it. They want the ability to quickly move into new markets. They want to actually trial new technologies and solutions, and actually, if it doesn't work, be able to pull out and not be stuck in for 3 years. And if you're having to go back and do that on every single component, even if it is virtualized, even if it is software-based, all you've done is recreated the same problem that enterprises are trying to get away from by going digital in the first place. So it is on how you put that ecosystem together. And again, at that same ecosystem, we look for it both ways. So with the Equinix example, we were working on it where then, and for Equinix customers, they can actually get back into the Telstra network if they're a Telstra customer and get it all through Equinix. So it's not about who owns the ecosystem. It's about who actually puts it together, how you build on your strengths, and how you push that through. And so, with that, again, just leave you, we've been on this journey for about 5 years. And, in the beginning, we did start with, hey, let's just build something, that can be different, that can actually automate the network. And as we went through it and we talked to customers, we realized we were too focused on the technology. And we had to start talking to customers about how they wanted to access it. So this is where we came up with the idea of integrating into Telstra's network so we could actually run that hybrid network and not force customers to create cross-connects in data centers or have to go put POPs everywhere around the world. So how do you cut down that cost? We're starting to go up the stack now and give these kind of managed services and gateway protection, and then creating the ecosystem. So as again, some of you had that chance to see John Vestal speak on a panel yesterday and talk about Open Kilda. He probably got very technical around the reasons why we did that, but every reason on why we did that and what we tried to gain from that was tied to a customer solution and experience. So we looked at the limitations of what we had in the system. We realized that we had to build some technology and capability to solve those specific problems. It wasn't just about going out and building cool technology. So really, that's the journey that we've been on. Hopefully, it just gives you a bit of an idea of how we're using these tools and how we're working to actually bring that network and cloud together, and gives you some ideas as well on how you want to go and partner in the future and how you actually want to deploy your technologies for customers. So with that, I'm going to say thank you. I did actually end up leaving, it looks like about 2 minutes, so if anyone does have a question, I'd be happy to take it. I think they're going to come with a mic.
Hello, Lothar Reit from Daticon Germany, part of Deutsche Telekom Group. Yesterday I attended your colleague's session on Open Kilda, very good. At the end I asked him the question, if you would have to migrate to P4, what would be the impact? And he said, actually it's not a problem, my perception. Could you confirm that?
So he said for migration, I'm sorry, for what? I didn't hear that.
To P4, which is sort of from OpenFlow to P4, the ONF says P4 is the successor of OpenFlow.
Yeah, so it is actually. So the answer on that would be yes. The migration is, obviously any migration has its issues, we all know. But the idea was to take in Open Kilda, take OpenFlow principles and create an architecture around that. So then the migration and the hooks and the APIs to actually migrate into a newer version should be pretty straightforward.
Thank you.
Great.
You got time for one more? That's it, right? No? Good. All right.
All right, well, thank you very much and have a great day.
Well, thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good job.